room full of young, emerging intellectual leaders, business leaders, entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs. What do you see as the areas of biggest potential for growth or innovation or new insights and that you think will inspire these folks going forward?
Energy storage. So the renewables transition, I'll just say from the stage as somebody who works on carbon capture and storage, the renewable transition is much more important and far cheaper in the long run than cleaning up later on. So anything you can do to participate in the renewable energy transition, that's going to be a tremendous growth area. We can already see that as solar PV in particular reaches grid parity with fossil fuel electric generation in some markets, when that really happens, it will suddenly burst exponentially. And the only thing then that's limiting is energy storage. And that's a very, very important limiting factor. But frankly, again, it comes down to choices and values. We can do it. It's not optimally efficient. It does add to the cost. But compared to what? And again, we need rational cost-benefit analyses of these things, but I'm pretty sure that it's cheaper to even use an inefficient energy storage system and go all the way on renewables than it is to sit around and wait burning fossil fuels. So I think there's a real potential for making lots of money participating in the energy transition, and also the transportation transition. Using personal vehicles as batteries while they sit around all day, engaging in conservation with more ride sharing and things like that. These are all things that are becoming very, very possible. They're pretty much in the forefront of entrepreneurial organizations already. These are all big opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely agree. I mean, one of the things we have seen already about this renewables transition is, I mean, we don't know exactly when it's going to happen on the large scale that Peter just described, but almost certainly it's going to be much sooner than anybody thought a few years ago. The price of solar is already below the price of fossil fuels in a lot of the world. And so the storage and the grid transmission issues are the issues, and that's where the breakthroughs are most urgently needed. The price of the panels itself is already dropping very fast. Wind has potential too. This is going to happen, and it would be great if we had some leadership from government, but it's going to happen anyway. And there's already a lot of things happening at the state and local level. Of course, the private sector, a lot of people recognize there is money to be made on it. So yeah, if I were a young person going to this, that's certainly an area for scientists to work on.
We have about, I think, a minute and a half left, so lightning last answer. What keeps you going? What makes you excited to do your research every day? What do you see as the big exciting thing on the horizon?
That could be so incredibly arcane for me to answer that. But, there are basic science questions that feed into carbon capture and storage, for example, involving feedbacks between reaction and cracking and permeability and so on that also have applications across all of earth science and plate tectonics and all that. So, when I wake up in the morning and think about a grant proposal, I'm usually looking at those basic issues.
I mean, I study the basic physics of how weather systems work and how the climate works, and the motivation for doing that primarily is the same as any other scientist's motivation. You get deep into it, and it's a fascinating problem, and the joy of discovery is the primary motivator. But for those of us working in this field, and to some of us, it's something that helped draw us into it, the feeling that we're participating in a activity that is also important to the prosperity of the planet and our society is another source of motivation that doesn't hurt either.
I've been sitting here wondering, when I retire, will I go into politics? And my only concern is I'll be so bad at it. I like to put my worst foot forward, as Adam well knows, and I wouldn't be able to break that habit.
Maybe it's the recipe for success nowadays.
Adam and Peter, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you all for sitting through this.